China, you have one party rule, so it is easier for them. They discuss it in the party, within the party, like they discuss changes in the third plenum, and now the whole government will be, I mean, pursuing those reforms or implementing those changes. So that is easier in countries like China, where there is one party rule. Of course, in Pakistan, it has to be difficult. Keyword for Pakistan to, borrow from them is reform. Chinese, when China opened up to the world in late 70s, something like 46, 47 years. So they decided, they set some targets, and they decided where they want to go. And for that, they embraced free market economy, not fully, but to a large extent. And they started to attract foreign investment because they knew that they cannot progress, they cannot move forward, they cannot eradicate poverty unless they adopt free market mechanism, free market policies. So they decided this it was a very thought out process. It was a very conscious process, and they did it. And since then, they have been, following that line, never changed even once. Now, the meeting that was the third plenum that was held the other day, last week, that was basically, they looked at what they have achieved over the years and what their plans are for the next 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. And then they decided which policies now need to be changed, reformed, which sectors need to be reformed. So this is important because at this meeting, they have set some goals for the next 10, 11 years. So the main goal, this new reform process, is to achieve modernization, to modernize their economy. So they have been, modernizing their economy for the last 10 years. For example, when they opened up in 1979, 1978, they started giving incentives, policy incentives, other incentives to the foreign investors, and to encourage them basic industry. So you see, foreign investors went there and they, took their technology with them, and they, set up factories making things like from toys to, Mercedes cars and everything. So if we look at the Chinese journey in industrializing itself, we see that they first attracted foreign investment in basic industries, and when the foreign investors from America, Europe, and other parts of the world, they came into China and they started to manufacture things from toys to big cars, luxury cars, etc. So that was the first phase, and then we see that there was a change in the policy in after President Xi Jinping took over. When they launched this Belt and Road Initiative, that was one part of the whole change, the new reform. And the second part was to move their basic industry out of China and go into high quality industry like electric vehicles, like renewable energy technology, like other technology. Because China wants to, reduce its carbon. So they started this one. So now this plenum, the third plenum that was held last week, that was actually, one step, a step further from that one. Now they want to modernize Chinese economy. They already are modernizing, but they further want to modernize it. And the reasons are two or three reasons. Number one, the Chinese economy is slowing down for a few years. So, they were growing the economy in double digits until a few years back. Now it's last year they achieved like 5.2% of GDP growth. which is for China. I mean, it's kind of slow growth. And then second thing is that they are facing geopolitical issues because of pressures from the US, pressures from the European Union. So the Western world is, I mean, converging against China because China has achieved some technological breakthroughs in renewable energy, in electric EV sector. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that the West thinks that it might overwhelm their economies, and they might have a crisis, and it might impede development of these industries in their own, I mean, countries. So that is the second reason for that. Third reason is that China is also facing some domestic issues. Like they have a huge local government debt, and they have seen this consumption, domestic consumption, private consumption reducing, has been on the decrease. So these are 2-3 reasons why they wanted to reform. And then there was another thing. Because of this Western pressure, we see that the foreign investment has slowed down in China. So they want to make it want their country to become more attractive for foreign investors. And so they have decided now to take these problems head on, implement certain reforms, and make their country again investable for the foreign companies, for foreign investors. That is the basic crux of this third plenum session. Now, the details of these reforms will follow in next few weeks and months, because Chinese, I mean, are kind of people who don't, I mean, front load those reforms or policy changes immediately. They release details. They have given us the idea about the basic idea what they are going to do, but the details will be, I mean, released slowly over the weeks, over the months, and so on. So you see, China has invested in, has investments in like 100 countries, maybe more than 100 countries. I mean, it plans to, move its industries, both the dirty industry, I mean, the basic industry like textiles, like, and such other industries, so that they can move more into cleaner sectors of the economy. So they do plan to, move investment, take investment to other countries in a bigger way. Secondly, they have achieved, lot of capacity in EV sector and in solar energy sector. So they have a problem now. They cannot export these products. They have supply, they have capacity, but they cannot export these products to more affluent countries like America, like Europe. Now they want to shift some of this capacity to other countries. Like they are planning to, take this EV, like BYD, their largest company, EV manufacturer, their plans to, set up plants in South America so that they can bypass restrictions, American restrictions on direct imports from China. So these are the things they are planning. So they also need to increase their exports, which are also slowing down in the last couple of years. So they will now like to strengthen, to shore up their trade relations, their investment relationship with other countries, right? So, we can see, a lot of investment, flowing out of Chinese investment, flowing out of China into other countries. So that is the opportunity for nations, for economies like us. So I think the main thread of Chinese development, the Chinese opening up to the world, was from the very beginning, from 1979, from the very beginning, that revolved around one thing. That was consistency of policies. So once they gave a policy for investment in one sector, they didn't change it arbitrarily, which is, common in Pakistan. One government comes, it announces a policy for, say, for car manufacturers. They say, we will give you these incentives, we will give you these facilities. You bring your investment here, you start manufacturing here, you start assembling here, and we will not, disturb you. But when they bring their investment here, when they start production, someday somebody sitting in the in Islamabad, he changes his mind and changes the policy, and the whole feasibility of this business is goes awry. So this is the kind of thing. Second thing that Chinese have followed very religiously, that is, they didn't give policy for 5 years or 10 years. They implemented policies for 20 years, for 25 years, 30 years. It doesn't mean that during that period they didn't, review those policies. They did. They analyzed the impact of those policies every few years, continuously. They analyze the impact of reforms they are introducing every few years. They make changes. Some policy is not working in certain sector, they make changes in that policy, but they never withdraw the incentives or facilities they have once given to the investor. Third thing that China has done is that they when they open up to the world, they set up special economic zones. So they created infrastructure for the industry. That made, if I am an investor and if I want to invest in Pakistan, then I have to come here and look around for land. Then I buy land, and then there is a problem, land title problem. Then I have to go to 20, 30 different departments, and it takes me 2 years, 3 years, or sometimes even more than that to start even construction of the factory or the whatever plant I am setting up. But in China, you are an investor, you go to China, you say, I want to set up this industry. They say, okay, we have facilities in this city, in that city, wherever you want to. I go there, I bring machinery, technology, and I just start working. So this is the kind of reform that we need to do. So we have been building industrial estates since 1960s, but none of our industrial estates has the infrastructure. And even in industrial estates, the investor has to deal with 20, 30 different departments and provincial governments, local governments, federal governments. So this is very, unfriendly, business unfriendly environment. Yes, there is a possibility. Definitely there is always a possibility of consensus, building consensus on anything which is controversial or which is where people have different opinions. Of course, in China, you have one party rule, so it is easier for them. They discuss it in the party, within the party, like they discuss the changes in the third plenum. And now the whole government will be, pursuing those reforms or implementing those changes. So that is easier in countries like China, where there is one party rule. Of course, in Pakistan, it has to be difficult because you have a parliament, you have different parties representing people's will in there. So you have to, take everybody into confidence. So the first thing or the first step towards that consensus has to be discussion on every policy in the parliament. Once you, discuss that policy in the parliament, and then you make a decision that you are going to this thing, you are going to give incentives to this industry, then it becomes easier to implement those policies. So I think it is difficult, in countries like us, but debate and discussion this democratic process, this is there to resolve these issues. I mean, Parliament is the best platform to discuss every problem, every policy, everything you have discussed thing. It becomes easier to build a consensus on that policy or action or decision. And secondly, I would say that all the political parties in Pakistan, whether they are represented, whether they have representation in the parliament or not, all of them have basic consensus on the direction of the economy. I mean, every party, is fully, I think, behind market economy. So you have already resolved this basic issue. So, we don't have a party talking about socialist economy. We don't have a party talking about Islamic economy. So, everybody agrees that this is the capitalist economy, and we have to follow the capitalist policies. So, market policies. So it becomes, you already have crossed that first threshold. Now is you have to build the infrastructure on that. So that infrastructure can be built through discussions, through debates, detail, and that, I think, that debate and discussion in the parliament that makes the policies even more vibrant, more resilient. So it becomes easier to refine them through discussion, rather than a bureaucrat sitting on his desk and making policies for us and then changing. And once you have this consensus, no bureaucrat will be able to change it, because he has some vested interest in that.